live with Cullen Haynes, episode 43. Can you believe we're up to episode 43 of this show? And I want to bring you my next guest, who's an absolute superstar. I've been connected with Phoebe Lay, who I'll be bringing on for the last, I'd say, 8 years since we started Legal Home Loans in 2018. In point of fact, Phoebe was a radiographer back before 2017, before she discovered the nuance and niche of social media at the time and thought, let's go full steam ahead here. And of course, we're talking about everything that's wrong with your brand and how you can get clients and how to fix it. So can you please make very welcome my dear friend, the one, the only founder of Thrive and Shine Co., Miss Phoebe Lay. We're bringing you on, Phoebe. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Cullen. Hi, how are you? It's so good to be here.
It's good. We've been planning this. This feels like years in the making, let me tell you. Years in the making.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it's finally, like, I remember looking at my calendar and I'm like, oh my gosh, the day has come. Like, how exciting. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. And look, you know, everyone who's tuning in, whether you're obviously in the legal realm, professional realm, accounting realm, everyone wants to, you know, connect with more clients and get their brand out there. And if you're a person dealing with people, and you don't have to be a company, you have your own brand. So we're going to be talking about all things, you know, fixing that brand and making sure it's visible. And that's what you specialize in, Phoebe, and you do it so well. And we were talking offline about some of the wonderful initiatives that you're running. But I want to ask you, first up, what is happening in your world right now?
Wow, thank you so much. I mean, firstly, it's such a pleasure to be here, as I've already mentioned. In my world, honestly, there's been a lot of travel. There's been a lot of rest. The new year, I always start the new year with rest and winding it back up after a wind down. I find a lot of business owners probably feel the same. When you're go for a whole year, you know, lots of travel the year before as well. Sometimes it's good to just take a break. So honestly, it's January. It's coming into February now. So I'm definitely winding things back up with the team and the events we're doing this year as well. I've been writing a book since, I think, wow, it's hard to know when I started, but yeah, for a year and a half, like fully writing a new book. And yeah, it's going to be all about how people have influence and how, you know, no matter your following, no matter how big your community, you have influence. And it all starts with your personal brand.
Very, very true. And in terms of, you know, you've had such a long and storied career, and we'll get into that. How would you sum it all up using just film titles, do you think, if you could use some movie quotes or film titles?
I would say I don't have specific film titles. I'm terrible with film names, but definitely themes would be things like Lost and like the teenager that's like looking for her purpose, looking for her meaning in life and feeling a bit lost and trying different things. And then, you know, doing that hero's journey. Yeah, just like any, like, you know, like Star Wars movies and that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, going through that hero's journey, discovering like your purpose and just coming back to yourself, coming back to realizing your why and your purpose.
Amazing. And in terms of, you started as a photographer, then went back to radiography, which I, you know, funnily enough, I actually did radiography back in the day. So I'm endeared by the fact that you can see right through people, right? So you don't take any BS, and then built a marketing empire. Like, can you just explain that transition to photographer, radiography, and then building that marketing empire?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a radiographer, I was definitely very unfulfilled, you could say, unsatisfied. I don't know about you, but I felt like I was lost in my career. I was fresh out of high school. I went straight into uni. I got the grades. I was in like top 6% in terms of my VCE score in the state. So I felt like
wow.
There was a level of disappointment with that too, because I had this huge competitive side, probably still do, but I was wanting a massive enter score. I wanted to really like just prove myself. Back then it was about proving my value, my worth to the external world without realizing that I already had all of that internally. And so I got into my first preference, which was Bachelor of Radiography at Monash University. And I think by the second year, I was like, I am not really enjoying this. I was doing clinical practice, lots and lots of contact hours at uni, and realizing that I just didn't really love what I was learning. So I struggled through uni. I managed to get my degree, even though I was quite unsatisfied even when I got out of there. And so the one thing that I really wanted to do with my degree was travel. And I ended up in the UK. So I moved overseas. And before I moved, my parents said a few words to me. They were like, don't go. Obviously, they didn't want me to leave. I'm the only child. And they were like, if you really are going to consider this, make sure you watch the movie Taken 1 and Taken 2. Because God forbid you get human trafficked. And I was like, this has got to be just a movie. Like, surely this stuff does not happen in the world. And that's when I really like delved into this whole world of human trafficking and discovered that every 30 seconds someone becomes a victim of modern day slavery, and people get trafficked all the time. Every minute of the day it's happening in this world, and it's not in the media. And it was very, very, I guess, very scary stuff. So long story short, I went overseas with a mission. I wanted to make change and maybe some kind of impact to stop human trafficking. And that's when I kind of thought, okay, I'm going to maybe start a business, but I didn't know what kind of business I was going to start. So when I was in the UK, I made some friends through the Brighton Camera Club. So I came back to Melbourne and I did a fast track 6-month course for a certificate 4 in photography. And ended up coming out of photography and having my first clients and going, shit, how do I actually ask them for money? How do I actually tell them that I would like to get paid for this gig? I'd done quite a few free gigs by then already. And I realized I had no idea how to ask people for money, and I didn't know how to start my own business. So it was 6 months of no income, and I was like, I'm freaking out here. I went to a private school where everybody has come out with as like a lawyer or a doctor or a dentist, and I've done 6 months of not working now. So that was my initial discovery of what business is like, of like that, lack of consistency and structure and having to forge your way. So I ended up going back to radiography, still unsatisfied, but that was when I started my business, Matcha Sisters, to give back 50% to anti-human trafficking organizations. And all of that ended up leading to me starting my own business as a social media marketer, and realizing that I actually had all the experience and the tools to teach people and show people how to do this.
Well, you talked about that, and I think it's an absolutely amazing thing, that initiative. And, so many people don't know about that dark element of human trafficking. And switching gears on the worth part, which I think is also very important for individuals, the fact that, you go out into the marketplace, you start your business, you plant your flag, you don't know what you're worth. How did you teach yourself to know pricing and your own self-worth? What was the change for you to say, hey, I'm going to do this for you, but it costs X amount, and that's what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Phoebe. Well, when I was in my first year in business, I was at the Coaching Institute, so TCI. A lot of people will probably have heard about TCI, and they bring out a lot of fantastic life coaches and coaches of all kinds. And I remember in my cohort, a lot of people struggled with this exact same issue. It was there were lots of great coaches, fantastic skills, but people that didn't know how to charge and people that didn't know how to start a business. And I'm very lucky in that I grew up with a mom, a tiger mom, a Chinese tiger mom, who's a savvy entrepreneur. She's been in business for as long as I think since I was about 10 years old. I was watching my mum pave the way for herself and go from us growing up living in housing commissions, because my parents were immigrants. So growing up in, like, you could say, like, the scums of Melbourne, to buying property, investing, mum becoming a millionaire. And it was just fascinating to see as a child. And I'm very lucky in that the way she set the example for me really kind of ingrained in me that I needed to be in business. And she was saying that even when I was at uni, she was like, in Chinese, the word work, it's 3 strokes, right? It's like 3 lines, but the middle line never crosses the ceiling. And she said, you will never break that money ceiling working for somebody. So she always said that to me. And I realized I needed to be in business and I needed to charge. So I invested in another course alongside TCI where it was called the 7-Figure Coach. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to be in a course where everybody's learning how to make 7 figures, I'm going to be surrounded by people who are intentional and obviously, who have that same plan and that purpose. So that course cost me, like close to, it was like five figures, good 5 figures. And it was all about making, like charging 5 figures for your program, for an annual program. So that was when I went from not knowing how to charge to getting my first paying client and realizing I can do this. And after one client, I quit my job. I backed myself. And I think it was one of those rare things where I was just like, okay, well, if I can do it with one person, there are billions of people out there. I'm going to be able to do it with multiple people. I've got a system now. And I don't know how. I just flew myself into business, and I never looked back. I think within that 1 year, I started to earn, I made my 5 and my 6 figures within 12 months, and I was very lucky that I was surrounded by people that believed in me, that encouraged me, and I just learned as I went how to grow a business.
You've built your business about serving and people who genuinely need you. What
Yeah.
does that look like in practice? That service first marketing. I'd love to delve deep into that.
So I actually wrote about this in my very first book, and essentially, I think it's really important when you're in business, rather than putting profits first, to think about alignment, to think about integrity, to think about, obviously your purpose, but also how you can serve others. Because if you are serving people with integrity and alignment and with empathy first, you are going to attract your ideal customer without the push and without that feeling of, like, this is hard work, this is grind, this is hustle, and your customers, your ideal customers, will come to you. And that comes with building a really strong brand, a strong personal brand, which is in line with a strong reputation. So you've got to have a good reputation in order for people to partner with you. And that's when referrals will come in. You've got people reaching out to you, people booking calls with you without the hustle and the grind. And I'm very, very lucky now in that I've built a business. I mean, it's been 7 or 8 years now, and I've built a business that works for me, where I can work sometimes 2 to 3 hours a day and then switch off, knowing that I'll still have meetings lined up for the rest of the week. I've got a reliable team and I don't have to hustle, and I can live in alignment and in integrity. Because if you're not living in alignment and integrity, you're not going to have the joy that will attract the right people to you. And without
Good
that,
point.
and without that inner, like that inner joy, or that positive energy and that influence, no matter how hard you hustle, you end up just getting yourself sick before you end up building an empire. And that's not good long term.
No, well said. And in terms of like the switch to LinkedIn, because that took it to the next level, you said when you went to LinkedIn in your book, everything changed. And I wrote my first book around LinkedIn and I absolutely love it. What's the biggest misconception you think that people have about LinkedIn today?
Yeah, so I think the biggest misconception about LinkedIn is that it's all about corporate, it's all about business or work.
Yes.
It's not personal, and you've got to show up as your best. You've got to do your talking head videos, have a really professional headshot, and, it's all just professionals.
Yes.
The reality of LinkedIn is I feel like LinkedIn is social media for adults, for working adults that is serious about business and growth or mindset. And I truly believe LinkedIn is for everybody, no matter what kind of business that you're in. Even if you're not in business, obviously, LinkedIn is good for the recruiting. It is good for finding a next job, but it's not like, I think especially people that aren't in business, they think LinkedIn is where you update your resume kind of thing. It's like, oh, I've got a new position. And then in between the positions, there's no posts, there's nothing. And we don't know what's going on in their lives. And they aren't sharing the magnificence that's in here, because we all have magnificence in here. We've all had experience and we all have influence. So LinkedIn is about sharing that influence. It's about really building up like your profile and letting people know that you stand for something. And it doesn't have to even relate to your business. It could be like mine, anti-human trafficking or purpose or influence. LinkedIn is a place where professionals or working people meet working people and professionals and business owners. And it's a place to collaborate, and it's fantastic.
I think that's amazing. And I'm endeared by what you're saying, that it is that hub and that is that place to do that. Is that what you mean when you talk about in your book, authentic, purpose-driven marketing? Is that what you mean by being yourself and putting yourself out there? I'd like to unpack that a little bit more for you.
Yeah. So authentic, purpose-driven marketing is about showing up and adding value rather than needing to feel like you're pressured by the trends of what's going on social media and the noise, and feeling like you have to blend in and be like everybody else.
Yes.
So what I often hear from my clients is, this is the value I want to give to the world. This is what I stand for, and I don't like that over there. So when I'm brainstorming, like, this is your content plan, these are your pillars, this is what we're going to do this month, and I'm working with my clients, what I often see is them actually telling me what they stand for, and they want to stick to it. They don't want to deter from that and jump on trends. So I'm not about creating hundreds of thousands of followers. I'm about helping people have a micro or a nano profile of influence. So I call it nano influencers.
Nano influencers. You heard it here first with Phoebe Lay.
Yeah. And nano influencers is not like, oh, well, you've got 50 followers. It's like, I've got 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 people that genuinely want to see what I'm up to. So imagine if you had, say, 500,000 followers, but most of them are just leaving love hearts and flowers and, rude comments on your posts. And they don't even know what you're up to or what you're about. They're just there to like see the trends or the fashion or the makeup tips or, the cars, versus 1,000 people that know who you are, know what you're about, and really also stand for what you stand for and are aligned in values.
I'm really, yeah.
The other, right?
I think so. Is that what you mean when you talk about vanity metrics versus real metrics?
Yeah.
Because like I did a poll on this a few months ago. It was like, would you rather have 1,000 quality LinkedIn connections or 100,000 influencing, or being one of those 100,000 influencers on Instagram, and they picked 1,000 quality connections on LinkedIn? I think that says something.
Yes. Exactly. So vanity metrics, it's basically looking at your likes, it's looking at your followers, and it's looking at the number of views and impressions, but it's not looking at the deeper metrics, which is how many of those views and impressions turned into shares, turned into reshares, or turned into leads, where people actually clicked on the link that you want people to go to. People actually signed up to your landing page, your ebook, or your, whatever it is that you have to offer, and ended up in your funnel, in your database. Those are the metrics that we need to be looking at, not the surface level ones that look good, that people reshare as influencers and go, look at that. But it's about the deeper metrics. And I'm all about the deeper metrics. And they don't have to be massive, but they just have to convert. And sometimes all it takes is 1 or 2 clients to, get you out of the office sooner. So I think it's really important that we are looking at metrics that actually give you freedom rather than tie you down.
No, very well said. And would you say that's one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're trying to build a personal brand? What do you think, in your opinion, is the biggest mistake someone can lead themselves to when they're building a brand or business there, Phoebe?
Oh, I think that might not necessarily be the biggest mistake. I think the biggest mistake is people jump on social media and initially they just start slapping things on their profile. Yep. They're not very intentional with what they're posting, and they don't get the traction, and then they burn out, and then they think social media isn't for me.
Yes.
I'm I'm all for taking breaks on social media. I mean, December,
Yes.
January is typically the time when I am, rather than putting things out there, I'm actually slowing down and observing and really feeling for what's the year ahead going to look like. Is there going to
Yes.
be a change in direction? Have
Yes.
any of my values changed? Have any of my offerings changed? And what am I going to put out there? And how am I going to lead the way for the year ahead? So I'm all for quieting down, and I'm very big on stillness. I think not enough people are still when they are with their time. They're very busy. There's a lot of pressure to post, to do, to react. There's a lot of interruptions in our day. There's a lot of distractions. So I think that the biggest mistake is, falling into the trap of feeling that pressure of needing to do the trends and be like everybody else. Rather than being very intentional with your time and not letting social media and the algorithm intimidate you and distract you. Because before you know it, you'll end up scrolling and you're calling it ideas, picking ideas or brainstorming, but you've scrolled for an hour or maybe two, rather than being intentional and going, I'm going in, I'm going to have a look at maybe 5 people that I admire, and I'm going to post and I'm going to get out of there and be intentional with my time.
I think that's incredible, because it can be a dark hole going down that scroll feed, and then very soon you've become a consumer rather than a producer of the content, right? And I think it's
Absolutely.
important. Yeah, and I think it's important what you're saying about being authentic, because you don't want to carbon copy everyone. I know there was that craze on LinkedIn. I think you remember 4 or 5 years ago, people putting out those clickbait videos of gears and the kid with the Coke can and all that kind of thing, and it was just views for the sake of views. Like, it's already out there. People want to see what you're up to. And I think that's an important point that you make. And that's going to help people build. The next point is an abundant pipeline. So what is an abundant pipeline, and how do you do it in 3 steps, Phoebe?
Okay, so an abundant pipeline is a pipeline that is constantly filled with quality leads. And that's
Yes.
something that a lot of people think is impossible. They're like, oh,
Yes.
that's not possible. I need to pay thousands of dollars to an agency to sell me leads, or I need to run Facebook and Instagram ads, and they end up burning through money. Now, and you probably do this too. On LinkedIn, you have a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of people out there that you can do business with, and they aren't your direct clients. Some of them are your referral partners, and some of them are people that are just going to become raving fans of you, maybe good friends even.
Yes.
And so to build a pipeline, I think the first step is create a network that is actually, aligned, authentic
Yes.
networking. So, I think I believe that in order to do that, you've got to connect with people authentically. You're not just doing the numbers game where you're reaching out to 200, 300 people a week. You don't even know who they are. You're just hitting connect, sending this copy and paste message that's the same for everybody. You've got to just find a handful of people each day or each week that you genuinely want to do business with, and have an authentic relationship with them and connect with them outside of LinkedIn, on Zoom maybe, or in coffee. And from there, your pipeline will build. You will have more meetings, more referrals. Some of them will eventuate into business and sales calls. But that is how you would start out with building your authentic pipeline. And I think
love
it's
that.
very simple. Yeah.
I think that's so important. What you're saying, it's similar to what Jim Rohn used to say. The things that are easy to do, which is what you're getting people to do, is also easy not to do. So it's just a simple shift. And that's a nice little segue into my next thing. What is one mindset shift, a philosophy that separates the people who survive as opposed to the people who thrive? And you are the queen of thriving and shining, and you've got your podcast, which we'll talk about a bit later. But yeah, I'd love to know what that mindset is.
Yeah, thank you. That's an amazing question. So one thing that I was recently asked this week was if you could give your younger self, or the person that was in their first year in business, one piece of advice, what would it be? And so my one piece of advice to my younger self, who was, in her first year of business, is every time you show up, you are actually building momentum. So it's not about chasing massive overnight traction and overnight success or waiting for one big breakthrough moment, but it's actually about quiet consistency and learning to move through what's uncomfortable. So
Yes.
sometimes people think I need to start the business when I'm ready, or I need to just get all these ducks in a row first and ducks aligned first. But it's actually not so much about having your ducks in a row, but diving into things before you feel fully ready and choosing to back yourself. Because when there's no back door and there's no way back, inevitably you are going to succeed. You are going to create a way. Like, I think some of the most successful clients that I see are the ones that have a really strong purpose and passion and why. And usually it's their kids or their family. And there's no way to not succeed, because they're like, if I don't succeed, I'm not going to put food on the table and I'm not going to feed my family. So there is no other option but to make it. So I really think that consistency and small actions stack up. And you don't always see it in the moment, but when you look back, you'll realize how much ground you cover when you are consistent and when you have that kind of, backing, that clarity, and that, yes, I believe in myself kind of mindset. So keep showing up. Momentum is created in the ordinary days.
I love that. And I love the analogy you made about not giving yourself an out, committing to it. You left your job and you went full into your agency. And I think it's that old analogy of Cortez, burning the boats, so his men had to push forward. They didn't have that chance of retreating. So I like that.
That's
Burn
right.
the boats.
Burn the bridge. Yeah.
Burn the bridge, burn the boats. Don't burn,
Burn
the
the boat,
house.
burn the bridge. Yes. No way back.
No way out.
Yeah.
And what do you think the most surprising thing you've learned about building an agency since 2017 has been there?
I think the most surprising thing is you can always pick yourself back up. Like,
Yes.
there are so many moments, Cullen, where I'm like, I am not cut for this. There've been so many moments where I've looked at even my own mum and gone, wow, you're so much more entrepreneurial than I am. I'm just, fishing the small fish. I can't do this. And no matter how many times you go through that, you always exit those thoughts and pick yourself back up, and then business will come again and things will continue growing and moving forward. I think that, it's really about your ability to just every day start a new day, not look back at yesterday and go, okay, there's more opportunity, there's more people, there's more availability, and there's more things to learn. Because in your first 7 years in business, it really is about making as many mistakes as you can and learning from them and then refining. I'm very big on pacing myself. I'm not like a overnight success. I want to be a millionaire tomorrow, this year, first year, that kind of thing. I'm all about pacing myself and just learning things as I go, rather than having to get all my ducks in order or beating myself up if I make mistakes.
What's some advice you could give a young entrepreneur starting their business today? What would you have liked to have known?
I think that when you are starting your first business, don't be afraid of spending money on a really, really good mentor or a really good community. As you guys have already heard at the start of this episode, my first year in business, I grew so fast. And that was because I wasn't afraid of investing my money into courses and into communities and into being part of masterminds and being amongst people that are like, you want to be the dumbest person in the room, ideally, because if you are, you are going to learn. Yeah. They say, so like, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with in terms of your revenue. So surround yourself with people that are making more money than you. You will learn and feel that momentum. Yeah.
Absolutely. And before we get into some bonus questions, love to finish the stream off with this question. And you can take it as seriously or as jovially as you like. When all is said and done, how would you one day like to be remembered, either as a brand, a person, a leader, or a mentor?
Oh,
what does that mean to you, Phoebe?
I think I'm not going to do the jovial part, because I think that I recently discovered that when I leave this earth, I want to feel like I did my, Jesus role in the world. Like, I want to feel like I created a positive impact where people felt like, yeah, that, like she was kind, she was genuine, she was loving, and she was joyful. Like, I want to leave every room feeling that way, where people feel that beautiful energy, that love, that essence of, it feels good. And yeah, and so that's what my new book is about. It's about, you have influence. We all have influence, whether it's a tiny influence on one person or on, a state where you're on stage with like massive crowds. Like, we all have influence.
And when is the new book coming out? When can you tell us there, Phoebe? Is it out already, or is it due to be released?
My goal is that this year it gets published and released. So yeah, I'm needing to put away the perfectionism and make sure that happens. That's why I'm putting it out there
Done
as
is
well.
better than perfect.
Absolutely. And sometimes when you say it out to a crowd, that holds you accountable. And that's one of the good things about social media. If you've announced it, it means that you've got to do it. You've got to follow through. The bridge or the boat has been burned.
It's burnt. Well, you're hearing it on the Live with Cullen Haynes show. We got Phoebe Lay. A new book is coming out, and what is the title again there, Phoebe? So people can add it to their to buy list. You have influence, so be sure to keep an eye out. You have influence, so you'll be able to see it. I'm sure on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the places you get your books. It's going to be coming out. It's going to be a monster success. I know it. And where can people find you, Phoebe? Where are you hanging out the most?
Yeah, so I'm actually hanging out the most on Instagram and on LinkedIn, but of course Instagram connects with Facebook, so anyone can find me on Facebook, and my website phoebelay.com. You can also check out the Inspire to Thrive and Shine podcast, where we release podcasts. And Cullen, I'm very excited about having you on the show as well and doing your episode. And yeah, we talk about all things. Yeah, business, mindset, health, wealth, everything. Really, it's a good show.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it, Phoebe. Thank you for coming on the show, and it's been a pleasure. You are a beacon. You're already doing what you set out to do. You're filling your light, and people are absolutely loving what you're putting out there. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you so much for what you do and everything you're about as well.
Oh, I really appreciate it. I do some finance every now and then. Everyone thinks I just do the social media. I do actually do some loans. There you go. But thanks, Phoebe. Appreciate your time. I'll speak to you very soon.
Thank you. See ya.
And if you are a legend in your field or know someone who is, and you want to be on the Live with Cullen Haynes show, we come out every Wednesday, talking to a leading legend in the space, whether it is a legend of law on our Law Live podcast, a legend in finance and accounting, or legends like Phoebe in marketing, financial planning, account, whatever it is. I want to speak to you. Come and reach out to me and we can maybe get you on the show. Bye for now, everyone. Hope you're well. Make it count and take care. Bringing you back, Phoebe, we got a couple of questions for you. How would your pet describe you if they could?
Oh, my pet is actually at my feet right now. Princess Phoebe. I think she would probably describe me as caring and loving, but also tough, because I'm the one that cuts her nails. I'm the one that trains her. I'm the one that says no. So she's like, Mum's caring and loving, but she's also she's also strict.
I love that. Princess Evie, shout out to you from the show. I've got my two boys. They're 2 under 3. So I've got Benji, who's 3 years old, and I've got Lockie, who's 16 months old. If I was to show them this show and ask them, Phoebe, if you could explain your show to a child, how would you go about explaining your role, basically, to make it as easy as possible?
Or the show?
What do you do? Yeah.
Okay,
what do you do?
My role. Yeah, so my role is I just have really interesting conversations with people, and I bring out their stories, and I basically chat to people. That's what my podcast and my show is all about. It's about really having those chats that people wouldn't normally have and going very deep, because sometimes my clients share, or my podcast guests have shared with me things on my show that they haven't even shared with their own kids and their own family.
That is amazing. So we just
go deep. Yeah, it somehow brings it out.
I'm going to show this to Benji and go, why don't we have deep conversations, Dad? And I said, we will. We'll make it happen. And I like this question, the last one of the stream. If you could go back in time to a younger version of Phoebe Lay and give yourself one piece of advice, when would you visit yourself and what would the specific advice be?
Oh, wow. So I've done this definitely before. And My choice would be when she was 7 years old and her dad went interstate and she thought he was never coming back. And she was like, no, all my joy and my world is like shattering. And I would say, you matter. And it is something that I still remind not just myself, but the people around me, is that you matter. And I say that to my clients, my friends, everybody. It's that you matter and you are loved and you are important. So yeah. That's what I'd say to inner child Phoebe.
That's an amazing message to give your 7-year-old self. And anyone who's watching, tuning in on the podcast live right now, thank you once again there, Phoebe. And it's going to be an absolute pleasure to come on your show and talk about all the things again. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and finance as well. I want to hear about the loans you actually do.
Absolutely. Well, the sharpest rate right now is 5.24, but we won't get into that. We can talk about that later. But nonetheless,
Nice.
If you want to connect with Phoebe, website phoebelay.com, listen to the Thrive and Shine podcast, and be sure to keep an eye out for her new book that's coming out this year. As I said, it's coming out. Thanks, Phoebe. Really appreciate it. Bye for now, everyone.
See ya.
Hey there, Cullen Haynes here, Australia's leading broker for lawyers on LinkedIn, and here's why I want to talk to you today about my book, my new book, The Laws of LinkedIn, 23 ways to find your tribe, build your following, and make 7 figures on LinkedIn. When I started this journey 7 years ago, when we built, myself and Andrew, my business partner, we built Legal Home Loans from the ground up, the pain point for us was we were at a standing start. No one knew who we were. We had no money, we had no contacts, and basically we had to find a way to make our voice heard, talk to our tribe, the legal community, and build trust. And the only thing we had at our disposal was LinkedIn, which was and still is free. There's over 1 billion people on LinkedIn, and I wish when I started, I had this book with me to guide me, because I basically distilled my 23 top leading hacks that we use to build our business to a 7+ figure, and I really want to get it out there and share it with you. So if you're back